Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how sometimes you can know the basics about something but still feel like something's missing?
Like you're just skimming the surface?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going deep. We're talking about the Porsche 911.
But not just like a regular history.
Yeah. We're going way beyond the years and the models. We're trying to figure out what makes the 911 so special, how it went from just another car to an icon.
A legend, really.
Right. And to help us with this, we've got excerpts from this French automotive history piece. Always fun to get a different perspective.
Absolutely. The French know a thing or two about cars themselves.
Okay, so picture this. Early 1960s, Porsche has the 356. It's beautiful, sporty.
A real classic.
Totally. And it had been their flagship model for 15 years.
Yeah.
But, time marches on and all that. Porsche knew they needed a new trick, a new car. I mean, imagine the pressure.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Replacing a car is one thing, but the 356, that was Porsche.
Their identity.
Exactly. So they had to get this right.
And our article today really gets into that. So Porsche wanted something, well, more modern. A 2-2 design, a little more space. They even wanted a bigger trunk.
Huh. Even sports car drivers need practicality sometimes.
Right. So in steps, Ferry Porsche's son, Alexander, or Butzi, as he was known, talk about pressure. Not only are you trying to follow up an icon, but you're also trying to live up to, well, your dad.
Wow. Yeah. No pressure there at all.
So the stage is set. 1963, the Frankfurt Auto Show. Porsche unveils the 901. And from the pictures, this thing was stunning. Sleek, modern.
Ahead of its time.
For sure. But there's a twist.
Always a twist.
Right. So Peugeot, they were not thrilled. Apparently, they had been using 3-digit car names with a 0 in the middle since, get this, 1929.
Wow.
They weren't going to let this slide.
Trademark issues.
Yeah. So now it's November 1964. Porsche has 901s rolling off the production line. They've got catalogs printed. Dealerships are ready.
And they have to rename the car.
What a disaster.
Yeah.
Talk about a scramble, right? So what do you do with a factory full of about-to-be legendary sports cars that don't have a name?
Well, this article suggests the switch to 911 might have been, well, kind of simple, like just replace the 0 with a 1.
You're saying it was kind of out of necessity.
That's what it sounds like. But you know what? Sometimes the simplest answer is the best one.
Right. I mean, 911, it just works. It's catchy. It's memorable. It's iconic. And it stuck, obviously. So 1964, the Porsche 911 is officially born. Comes out with a 130 horsepower engine. Not bad.
Respectable, for sure.
But then they come out with the 911S, 160 horsepower. Now, that might not sound like a lot today, but back then...
That was a rocket. This article says they were getting something like 80 horsepower per liter.
Real?
And most other sports cars were barely hitting 50.
Wow.
So yeah, this is where the whole 911 performance legacy really starts. Plus, on top of that, they introduced the Fuchs wheels with the 911S, that 5-spoke design. Legendary.
I mean, those wheels are just instantly recognizable. But Porsche, they didn't stop there. 1966, they introduced the 911 Targa. Now, this is interesting. A removable roof panel, but with a soft rear window. Kind of a mix of, like, coupe and convertible.
Yeah, like a best of both worlds situation. And the name Targa, that actually came from the Targa Florio road race in Italy.
So they're really going for that sporty image.
Absolutely. And you know what's really cool? The Targa. It's still around today, in one form or another. Talk about a design that resonated.
And speaking of resonating, the 911 actually got a semi-automatic transmission in '67. This article says it was aimed mostly at the U.S. market. What do you think? Was that Porsche trying to, like, broaden its appeal?
I think it's smart. I mean, the U.S. market is huge, and they like their automatics. It shows Porsche was really thinking ahead.
It does. But even with all this, they didn't forget about performance. In '68, they introduced mechanical fuel injection on the 911, more power.
Music to a car enthusiast's ears.
And then the engine sizes started going up. First 2.2 liters, then 2.4. This car just kept getting better and better.
It's that constant evolution, you know? They never just sat back and said, well, this is good enough. They kept pushing.
And that's got to be a big part of why the 911 is still so popular today. And, we can't talk about the 911 without talking about, well, this one. The 1972 911 RS.
Ah, now you're talking. A true legend.
Our article called it fabulous, and yeah, I think that's about right.
They weren't exaggerating. The RS, it was like they took everything great about the 911 and just turned it up to 11.
Well, they definitely turned up the horsepower. 210. I mean, the early 70s, that was...
unheard of. Plus, it was lightweight, and that ducktail spoiler. Come on.
So iconic.
It was a race car for the street. The article talked about how it just dominated motorsport, winning races left and right. But it wasn't like those pure race cars that are undrivable anywhere else, you know?
Well,
This was a car you could take to the track, win, and then drive home. That's special.
absolutely. And then this article wraps up by talking about the second generation of the 911, the G series. Came out in '73.
Of course, that's not where the story ends. I mean, the 911 just kept going.
60 years later, it's still one of the most iconic sports cars in the world.
And I think that's the really amazing part. I mean, look at the 911 today. It still has so much of that original DNA from those early cars, that commitment to performance, that shape. You know a 911 when you see one.
Instantly. And this article, it touched on how expensive those early 911s are getting.
Mm-hmm.
They're really becoming collector's items.
Well, yeah. There's a reason for that. They're special. It's more than just nostalgia. It's like they captured something, you know? Timeless design, that blend of performance. And well, cool, you don't just drive a 911, you experience it.
You said it. And I think that's what we were trying to uncover with this deep dive. What makes the 911 more than just a car? And I think we found it. The history, the innovation, the passion. You can feel it in every one of these cars.
For sure.
It's a car that's more than earned its place in history. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. But for everyone listening, we hope this sparks something for you. Maybe next time you see a 911 out on the road, you'll take a second look and think, hey, I know what makes that car so special. Until next time, keep exploring.